Sigils, everybody's using them now. They've been around for a while. It's the bedrock of chaos magic. It's been used and proven to be extremely successful ever since Osman's Fair, back at the turn of the century, brought them into a kind of a modern way of identifying and using them based on what were called seals before that. The seals that were used to invocate gods or angels or to summon demons. The sigil is, as you know, for most people know, is only part of the process. The entire process is basically the charging of the sigil. So you can think in terms of if you wrote a story or a book, or you wrote a poem or a song, if you just played it to yourself at home, it has no magical power. Its magical power derives from you presenting this as a work, as an art. This is why art is so central to the idea of magic, the art. So the art is presented, then it has a power. Up until that point, it doesn't have a power. It's merely something you've done as a hobby. And so it's almost like you're an unearthly child. You're birthing this thing into reality in order to change reality. Now, again, nothing comes from nothing, and you have to pour an amount of psychic energy into a sigil in order to make it work. It's innate without it. It's just like this is why money and currencies around the world are filled with sigils that are based on things like wars or national epics. In the past, when money had real value, it was filled with images of great battles or great leaders, and that was the charge. That was the charge for the money. Now, the sigils on the money. So, in my book Sorcery, I spoke about the sort of basic methods that have been used over the years to charge a sigil. A good one is to put it on your boyfriend's or girlfriend's forehead, and as you're reaching ejaculation or climaxing a female orgasm, you concentrate completely on the sigil, and then you remove it and destroy it and get rid of it. Some people eat it. They put it on rice paper. That's a very effective way, and they eat it. And that's, you poured your sexual energy into it. Another one is to go on a roller coaster, and as you're going over the highest part of the roller coaster, have the sigil in front of you, and pour all your psychic energy and all the psychic energy of all the people in the roller coaster ride with you into the sigil. A very good one, that one, because you're getting free energy from others into it. And another one is bungee jumping, parachuting, just kind of anything extreme like this. Then you get into the more sort of intense elements of it. Like if you're in a war and you're a magician. This is the thing, no one ever talks about war. I think I'm the only one who ever talked about war and magic. But the idea that war is a fertile ground for magic and magical processing. So, for instance, you're in a battle, you could have the sigil on the front of your machine gun, and as you're going in and fighting the battle, firing the machine gun in war, you staring into the sigil, so all the energy is put into that. I know that sounds like very dark to people, and like, oh, well, it's not very spiritual. No, actually, it's not. You don't understand what spirituality is. Spirituality isn't unicorns and leprechauns and unicorns and Russell Brand going namaste on the back of a fucking unicorn. That's not what spirituality is. Spirituality is the extreme intensity of the spiritual state in any direction. So like the spirituality that's very weak, which would be that kind of namaste, thing. That's very, very weak. It has no real power. There's the more extreme elements of spirituality, such as the flagellants or self-harming. Like one of the ways you can get rid of a curse is to... Now, before I continue on with this video, I'm not telling anyone at home to do any of these things at home. I'm telling people to listen. You see, this is what's wrong with these Christian fuckers and these truther morons, is that they read a book like Aleister Crowley's Magic in Theory and Practice, where he talks about how sacrifices have been done over the centuries, and then they say, oh, he did it himself. That's like saying that someone describing war wrote a book about the Holocaust was throwing Jews in ovens or throwing gypsies in ovens. It's just a description of what he was doing. It's like he no more did it than Fraser when he wrote The Golden Bough. spoke about the unraveling of the entrails around of a sacrifice of the entrails to Dunnar by making a person who stole the oak bark walk around the tree until the entrails were wrapped around where the bark had been peeled off, like the life of a man for the life of a tree. Now, that's spirituality as well. We live since the 60s, and the whole Coca-Cola I'd like to teach the world. We have this fluffiness, but spirituality is extreme as well. In fact, the extreme stuff is what gets the job done. Let me get my knife. Now, there are exemplary and extreme forms of gnosis involved in it. Yes, people kill animals. Yes, I know very good people who do things like if someone catches a fish and they want to repel a curse, they kill the fish during the magical operation. That the fish was going to die anyway to be made into dinner, so they kill it. People will do it with chickens and so on. My great-grandparents used to kill chickens and do offerings on that as well. That was very common as well, and they would do it through Christian things. They would talk about breed and stuff like this, but it wasn't Saint Bridget, it was Saint Breed, like a way of repelling a curse, like pain and exemplary and extreme gnosis and things like that. So you have cutting, bleeding, just even the terror of putting the knife at your jugular vein. This is an extremely sharp knife, and it pushing it until you prick it, knowing you're only a millimeter away. Again, I'm not telling you that this is doing it while you're holding the sigil, right? Now, another one, you can put this in a fire until it glows red hot, and you can do the inverted cross in order to summon the power force of Saint Peter. Now, I know that sounds really weird, but Saint Peter is a power force. His inverted cross is actually useful in magic. The cunning men and women, they all use these kinds of things to get around blasphemy laws. So you would do the inverted cross, red hot, down. You would start facing the east, burn it down. That would be the east facing one, creating the longest point of the cross. Then 4 shorter crosses this way until you have an inverted cross when your hand is down. So you're carrying the mark of St. Peter. So you're carrying the struggle of St. Peter, and you're tapping into the power force of St. Peter. And that's why Christian archetypes or anything, say we're talking about Batman and Superman, you can use anything. You can use anything. Now, to anything that has a power force you can tap into. Now, what was the most extreme form of gnosis in terms of charging a sigil I ever did? Well, again, it was pretty intense, and I'm telling you not to do this at home. I take no responsibility if you're a fucking idiot who, smokes loads of weed and listens to fucking, bad heavy metal albums from the 80s and does these kinds of things. You're on your own. You fucking murdered yourself. But however, death gnosis. Okay, now the point of death is what charges the sigil the most profoundly. Now, you all saw that movie, A Dark Song, and where the magician kills her by drowning her in the bath, because she basically had lied and just damaged the right of Abamel and the Mage. So, okay, again, don't do this at home, but you want to power a sigil to its most extreme, assuming you can't go into a war and charge into the battle with a sigil on the end of your machine gun or something like that. Well, you can kill yourself temporarily, well, symbolically, but almost come close to it. Now, how it has been done, that's all I'm saying, is to find someone who loves you. That you cannot do this one on your own. This is why love is an integral part of magic. This is why Crowley constantly used the term love. This is love is an integral form of magic, because it is the salvatory aspect, the redemptive force within the most intense and darkest process. It's like when you kill an animal in order to feed your family. That's an act of love. Now, I know the vegans are all listening to that going insane, but it's easy for you living these days where you can have all your fruits and everything flown in from Brazil and Mexican rainforests that have been destroyed for your veganism. But in the past, that was the fact of life. Okay, so you have someone you love. The first now you're not going to. It has been done, that's all I'm going to say. you get a clear plastic bag, not one that's too tight because you don't want too much steam on the inside, but it must be a clear plastic bag. You need gaffer tape, or what do they call it in America? Not gaffer tape, duct tape, the silver stuff, the heavy stuff, or a rope. You're going to create a sigil with your desire. Now, the best way to create the sigil is probably on a piece of cardboard painted black, or a piece of wood. No, cardboard actually is best. I'll tell you why. You've got to burn it afterwards. And spray paint or white paint the sigil on, so it's white on black. And that way, because you've got to see this thing at the moment you're about to pass out. You sit on a chair, and you'd have your hands tied behind the chair with the gaffer tape, sealed up. Or in the old days they used rope or handcuffs. Or if you're kinky, you might want like the handcuffs. And you get your girlfriend or your boyfriend, whatever, to do that. Again, I'm not telling people to do it this way. I'm just saying it has been done. Plastic bag over the head. And then the plastic bag held in with those bungee cord wrapping things that doesn't quite strangle you but holds the plastic bag tightly. You begin to lose oxygen. You're breathing, the bag is going in and out. Get a bag that is about that much space around you. It's going in and out. The condensation will be there. You start sweating profusely. All the time you're concentrating on that sigil that she's holding or he's holding in front of you. Holding and holding and holding. And you're going and you're going, and it's becoming more difficult. And on the point that you're about to pass out, on the threshold of death, you will scream out. Your boyfriend and girlfriend will go over and they'll tear open a hole in the bag so the oxygen comes back in. Then you take the sigil that's been on the sheet of heavy cardboard or wood and you burn it in a fire. And that's the most powerful way that most of us can charge a sigil. Now, that doesn't mean that any sigils that are not charged that effectively won't work. They will, of course they will. Well, sigils can work quite with a moderate amount of power. The reason why someone did this was because their life was in danger. So suppose if you want someone to kill you, or you want someone is trying to destroy you, either in a gangland situation or a crime situation or a vendetta through a psychic attack, you can repel and you can do whatever your sigil's desire was on that. So that's the extreme. If you want to make that's almost like that's as close to getting. You ever see those shots of people in the wars where they put you see them in Israel? They showed kids in the 6-day war writing Hebrew on the side of shells that are being fired at the enemy, and that happens all over the place in all kinds of wars. You put a message for it, like World War II. You see African American soldiers on special delivery for Adolf, this kind of thing, and the shells were fired over. That's magic as well. Now, barring unfortunately, we don't. Well, fortunately, I don't have a howitzer, or I don't have a 35mm mortar, but I do have this ability. Now, I wouldn't do it this age. I'm too old. It's too dangerous, and I don't need it anymore. I've built up a pretty powerful legacy of magical protection and charisma all my life. But when I was younger, you take the harder drugs, you do the stupidest things, you have the kinkiest sex, and you do the most intense magic. And so it's really just it's a young person's game, more or less. I mean, I know fellas and women who could do this stuff in their 60s and 70s, and good luck to them. I don't know if I could, but remember that magical power is it's accumulative. The more you build it up over your life. That's why it's very difficult for, say, an upstart magi or magician to damage a magician that's in their 60s or 70s, because they've just built up the power where the magi in their 60s or 70s they can kill the younger one. To know more about my megalithic, Fortean and esoteric journeys, you can visit my website www.mossuponstones.com. You could also pick up the book Sorcery, which complements these videos and these articles, at the link below. And if you liked the video, please thumb up and subscribe.